The historic 1979 peace treaty, transforming enemies into neighbors. What transforms bitter enemies into cautious neighbors? How do nations move from war to peace? On March 26, 1979, the world witnessed a moment many thought impossible, the signing of the first peace treaty between Israel and an Arab nation. On the White House lawn, under a bright spring sky, three men prepared to change the course of Middle Eastern history: Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, and U.S. President Jimmy Carter. Just 6 years earlier, their nations had been locked in the brutal Yom Kippur War, the fourth major conflict since Israel's founding in 1948. The human toll was staggering, over 15,000 lives lost in just 3 weeks of fighting. The path to this day began with an extraordinary act of courage. In November 1977, President Sadat stunned the world by traveling to Jerusalem, the first Arab leader to officially visit Israel. Speaking before the Knesset, Israel's parliament, he declared, "I have come to you so that together we might build a durable peace." This unprecedented gesture led to the Camp David Accords in September 1978, where President Carter sequestered Sadat and Begin for 13 intense days of negotiation at the presidential retreat in Maryland. The negotiations nearly collapsed multiple times. Begin and Sadat, both stubborn and proud men with deep historical grievances, frequently reached impasses that seemed insurmountable. On one crucial night, with talks on the verge of collapse, Carter personally wrote out the names of Begin's grandchildren on photographs taken at Camp David and presented them to the Israeli leader. Moved by this personal reminder of the future generations at stake, Begin agreed to compromise on the final sticking points. 6 months later, they arrived at the White House to sign the treaty that would end 30 years of war. Israel agreed to withdraw from the Sinai Peninsula, territory captured in the 1967 Six-Day War. Egypt recognized Israel's right to exist, breaking a unified Arab front that had previously denied Israel's legitimacy. As the three men signed their names, they knew the personal risks they were taking. Carter was spending precious political capital on foreign policy while facing domestic challenges. Begin faced fierce opposition from Israeli settlers in the Sinai who would be displaced. And Sadat was making the greatest gamble of all. "Let there be no more war or bloodshed between Arabs and Israelis," Sadat declared at the signing ceremony. "Let there be no more suffering or denial of rights." His words would prove prophetic and tragic. Just 2 years later, on October 6, 1981, Sadat was assassinated by Egyptian extremists during a military parade, paying the ultimate price for his pursuit of peace. Yet despite this tragedy, the peace treaty endured. For over 40 years, through regional conflicts, the rise of extremism, and the Arab Spring, Egypt and Israel have maintained diplomatic relations. It remains the cornerstone of stability in an often turbulent region. While not always warm, this cold peace has saved countless lives that might have been lost in further conflicts. Today, when peace in the Middle East seems more elusive than ever, the Egypt-Israel Treaty reminds us that historic enemies can choose a different path. What lesson can we take from March 26, 1979? Perhaps it's that peace requires both bold vision and painstaking detail, both dramatic gestures and quiet compromise. And sometimes it requires leaders willing to risk everything, even their lives, for the possibility of a better future. As President Carter said that day, "We have won at last the first step of peace, a first step on a long and difficult road." The journey continues, but that crucial first step, taken on March 26, 1979, forever changed what was possible in the Middle East.